Hello and welcome to another My Tunes podcast right here at banksradio.com.
Mark Tiley, the nation station, Manx Radio.
Technically speaking, we're taking a break from musicians on this week's My Tunes, although my guest may well have something to offer musically as well as in high drama, because we're going to talk a lot about Shakespeare. We're talking about Parados, a wonderful theatrical company based here on the Isle of Man, and one of the brains behind it is Charlie Williams. Welcome to My Tunes.
Thank you very much, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, we just touched upon, has he got a musical instrument up his sleeve? Well, I know you didn't bring one in with you, but before we get into the drama, there is something going on in the background, isn't there?
There is, yeah. So when I was at school, I was a bit of a drummer, and one of the tracks actually on my list is inspired that part of my background.
Well, we will definitely get to that. So, there we go. Now, drama, Parados. How did all this come about?
So, Parados Theatre Company is an island-based company. It was started by myself and my friend Alex Armstrong, both of us having backgrounds in theatre on the Isle of Man. Myself from a theatrical drama perspective as a performer, he as from the more technical side. And we basically sat down one day over a pint of beer, as many good ideas start, and said we wanted to do something and saw that companies on the island locally weren't doing a lot of classic theatre, kind of classic Shakespeare. And the reason we were told by certain people was, Manx companies can't really do it in the same way that UK companies can. Manx actors can't really do it, and you're not necessarily going to get the audiences, and we thought that was nonsense. So we put the company together, and last year put on Much Ado About Nothing, which was our first production, and it went down a storm. So we're now coming back, gluttons for punishment, with Merchant of Venice.
And that's coming up in the early autumn.
Early autumn, yes. So 7th to the 9th of September. You can get tickets, I'm sure I'll sale again later, from the Villa Gaiety. And it's actually in a change of venue slightly, in that it's one of the first productions that will be done in the Villa Gardens. I
see. Now, there is a history of Shakespeare in the open air, but as you say, that previously, and still does occasionally happen, from visiting companies.
Yeah. So you've got TNT, who are coming over with Romeo and Juliet, I believe, with the Peel Castle and Russian Abbey, and I've seen great performances by different companies at those locations, and what we thought, it is something that people enjoy doing. I love seeing Shakespeare outdoors. I love seeing performances outdoors, whatever the weather, to be honest. It's a nice, different experience. And so we wanted to do that, but do something a bit different, by having this agreement partnership with the Villa Gaiety, whereby we're doing it in the Villa Gardens. It's hopefully a bit more local for people in Douglas, but also it allows that experience outdoors, but with the familiarity of being somewhere that you would normally go to see theatre over here.
Excellent. Now, born in the Isle of Man, raised in the Isle of Man, but went away to uni.
Yep.
What did you study?
I studied law, and I came back. I didn't do anything, nothing of a theatrical bend as an education. And came back and became an advocate on the Isle of Man. Alex is also as well. So I don't know what that says about us, that we both do law full time and then decided to do this.
But you are still in the legal business.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yes.
Right, gotcha. Well, let's have our first choice of music. You happen to be choosing. If I was doing the other side of the microphone, in other words, if you were grilling me, I may well have chosen this myself. So I'm delighted that you've chosen this, but tell us why.
I've chosen this because I've always loved Billy Joel, I believe.
Yes.
So I've always loved Billy Joel. He's somebody that my mum introduced me to when I was younger, as everybody is often introduced to musicians through their parents. But this particular song I found later on in life, and it was around the time that I first met my now wife. And this isn't a wedding song or anything of that nature, but it is a kind of romantic song for us. It's a song we bonded over. And so it means a lot to me for that reason, and it's just a fantastic track.
We really should have a bottle of red here and a bottle of white there, shouldn't we?
We should.
Because it is.
We should. It's scenes from an Italian restaurant.
Here it is.
A bottle of white, a bottle of red, perhaps a bottle of rosé instead. Get a table near the street in our old familiar place, you and I face to face. nights. It all depends upon your appetite. I'll meet you anytime you want in our Italian restaurant. Okay with me these days. Got a good job, I got a good office. I got a new wife, got a new life, and the family is fine. Oh, you lost touch long ago. You lost weight, I did not know. You ever look so nice after so much time. Do you remember those days hanging out at the village green? The engineer boots, leather jackets, and tight blue jeans. Sweet romantic teenage nights. Steadies and the king and the queen of the bomb, riding around with the car top down and the radio on. Nobody looked any finer, always more of a hit at the Parkway Diner. We never knew we could want more than that out of life. Sure, the Bender and Eddie would always know how to survive. Oh, summer of 75, when they decided the marriage would be at the end of July. Everyone said they were crazy. Brenda, you know that you're much too lazy, and Eddie could never afford to live that kind of life. Oh, but there we were waving Brenda and Eddie goodbye. Oh, oh, oh. Well, they got an apartment with deep park carpets and a couple of paintings from Sears. A big water bed with the bread they had saved for a couple of years. But they started to fight when the money got tight, and they just didn't count on the tears. Oh, 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 oh. Rock and roll. Parted the closest of friends. Then the king and the queen went back to the green, but you can never go back there again. Oh, 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 oh. Brenda and Eddie had had it already by the summer of 75. From the height of the low to the end of the show for the rest of their lives. They couldn't go back to the greasers. The best they could do was pick up their pieces. We always knew they would both find a way to get by. Can't tell you more 'cause I told you already. And here we are waving Brenda and Eddie goodbye. Oh, 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 bottle of reds, ooh, a bottle of whites. Whatever kind of mood you're in tonight, I'll meet you anytime you want in our Italian restaurant.
Parados, theatrical company in the Isle of Man, is the brainchild of my guest on this week's MyTunes, who is Charlie Williams, not to be confused with the former TT commentator, by the way. Much younger, and no, just get that out of the way.
I did once excite. I once booked a hairdressing appointment under Charlie Williams and arrived, and they were very disappointed at who actually turned up.
That it wasn't that
it wasn't
Charlie
the
Williams.
former TT rider Charlie Williams.
Now, so you went away to university, we discovered yesterday, to study law, which is fine, and you're still involved in all of that. But when did you actually get involved in drama? Was it at school?
Yeah, so it was when I was younger. So I did productions at school. I really enjoyed it. It was something that I was okay at, and so I did it both at school and then outside of school. I was in some Gaiety productions when I was a child. In Oliver in 2001, I think, was my first performance on the Gaiety stage as a workhouse boy, and then went up and did various other productions, and then took a break for about 10 years. I didn't do any acting at all. I stopped around 14, 15, and thought, in all honesty, I was going to become a television presenter or do radio or something like that, because I did a couple of videos for the Isle of Man government, and I'd done some other external TV stuff at university for the TV students. They needed someone to come in and present, so I thought, oh, that's what I'll do. And then actually did law, enjoyed law, went into that as a career. So kind of had put acting on the back burner. And then an opportunity came up to be in the production of The Mousetrap that came over to the island, that was put on by Parker and Snell. Back in 2017, I think it was, if I racked the back of my brain. And I thought, oh, I've been thinking about getting back into acting, and did that, and fell head over heels in love with it again.
How important is that wonderful Gaiety theatre to us in terms of getting people into dramatic arts in the Isle of Man?
I don't think there's really a measure of how important it is. It is a massively important piece of architecture on the Isle of Man, a space. Every time we have companies come over to the Isle of Man, or directors, professional directors who've directed in London, in various other locations around the world, I am always hearing about how lucky we are to have that space. Every time I go in there, whether it's to perform or to watch, I'm in awe of that space, and I think it's massively important that we keep it.
And it's not just the big shows, but there's all sorts of things can happen in there, whether they come in from outside or locally homegrown productions. And I think the whole breadth of activity in the whole complex is really important.
Yeah, oh no, it's massively important, and it offers something for everybody. That's what the Gaiety Theatre has done, and it allows, obviously there's the big musicals that it can fill the space, and it's incredible. Then there's the dramatic productions. It's one of those theatre spaces where you can feel like you're in the middle of a huge auditorium, or you're in a very small room listening to one person talking, and that is you just can't buy that.
Now, when we started this yesterday, I said, I think there's a musician in here as well. And you mentioned the drums. Do you still drum?
I don't. I haven't for a few years, but I did whilst I was in secondary school in sixth form. I was in a band, and I did a bit of drumming. And I think the track that we're going to play today, that band was a huge influence on me getting into that. And I spent hours and hours by ear learning these songs, and I just loved it.
Right. Well, I'll give you 2 Manx Radio pens and an upside down bit of Tupperware, little Tupperware box, because this is the track. What is it?
This is Green Day with Holiday.
Yeah.
My guest on My Tunes all this week is Charlie Williams, semi-retired drummer, but entrepreneurial theatrical director. I'm going to give you all of that and more. But I want to go straight into quite a serious conversation about Shakespeare. How easy or how difficult is it to keep Shakespeare relevant to a modern young audience?
It's both very easy and very difficult, which is a really difficult answer to give. The problem with Shakespeare is that our first experience of Shakespeare is normally at school, and it's normally reading it, and it's normally Be Quiet, Williams, we're trying to read this at the back of the room, and Shakespeare's not meant to be read. He wrote plays, they were written to entertain, to make us laugh, to make us cry, to make us think. That's what they were written for. And if you watch Shakespeare, it's night and day difference to reading it. So what I would say to people is, if you've signed off ever thinking about Shakespeare again and you think, it's not for me and it bores me, watch it. Do yourself a favour, go and watch, ideally Us, the 7th to the 9th of September at the Villa Marina Gardens, but primarily just watch any Shakespeare, because if it's done properly and it's done right, not in the arty, flowery way of, historically people think you have to shout in a very big voice and do all that kind of thing. If you do it properly, it's wonderful. And it's really wonderful. And it's really important today because the themes are just the same.
So the people who would have gone to see these plays originally would have come from all walks of life.
Yeah, if you think about the Globe Theatre that they rebuilt in London, the types of plays that were in there were Shakespeare, and they have, the further up you go, the more money you pay, and then there's down in the groundlings where you stood and you threw bread or whatever it was they did at the time. Don't throw bread now.
No.
But and it's and it was for everybody. He didn't write plays just for high-class people in a court. He wrote them for everyone.
Moments of research are never wasted, Tylee, and I did a little bit of due diligence looking at just how many quotes come from Shakespeare that are still used in our modern parlance. The pound of flesh.
Exactly.
Which is very relevant to this forthcoming production.
Yes, exactly. So, you've got Pound of Flesh from Merchant of Venice, you've got All's Well That Ends Well, which is in itself a play that people use all of the time. There's a ton, and there's so many phrases from Shakespearean plays that we utilise today without knowing it normally.
And Romeo and Juliet as a theme has come up time and time again. I mean, but the most obvious one being West Side Story, but it just goes on and on and on. That whole business of two families colliding.
I mean, even The Lion King is Hamlet. Basically,
yes,
The Lion King
it
is basically Hamlet.
I'd never thought of that, but of course it is.
So they're all there is always something that comes back to it. So.
Well, we will look forward to this very much indeed. Give us the dates again.
So the 7th to the 9th of September 2023. Tickets on sale now.
We see, and we'll plug it again tomorrow. But for now, let's have some music. And what have we got today?
Oh, today I thought I'd give you something, a bit of kind of classic rock.
Yes.
This song is again going back to the, you pick up songs from your parents. I remember being in the days where I'd be at home, and you remember music playing around the house, and my mum would have records on, and it was this, I think it was probably on like a best of compilation or something like that, but I remember it sticking with me, and I just loved the riff, I loved the harmonies, I loved everything about it, and this is Rainbow with Since You've Been Gone.
To me, your poison letter, your telegram, just goes to show you don't give a damn. Since you've been gone, I'm out of my
Parados Theatre Company was founded in 2020 by two friends, long-term friends, Alex Armstrong and my guest all this week, who is Charlie Williams. Go on, whose idea was it first, yours or his?
I think there'd probably be a knife fight over that.
Yeah.
No, I think I came. It was a weirdly meeting of the minds at the right time. I came to him and I mentioned the Shakespeare, and I mentioned I wanted to do something along those lines, and said I'm thinking of starting a company, and he said I also was thinking about talking about potentially starting something. So we weirdly did meet in a very coincidental, to a certain degree, situation where we both went, oh, all right, okay, fine, well then let's do it. If we're both thinking that, let's just do it.
Let's just do it. Now, whenever I get somebody involved in the arts, particularly plays and drama, musicals, I like to emphasise the fact that these things don't happen in the last couple of weeks. The preparation and work that goes on for the whole team, the direction, the props, the actors. When did you start putting this production, the production of Merchant of Venice, the September production, when did you start work on it?
Months ago.
Yeah.
And the rehearsal part of it, one of the things that has opened my eyes and made me very, appreciate all of the work that goes into every performance on the Isle of Man from whatever company, is the amount of work involved when you're actually the company putting it on. I've usually been from the acting side of things, so I've gone, oh yeah, well you turn up to rehearsals, they're however many months, then you go on stage and then it's finished. And then you don't realise that for several months before you've even come into the room, there has been arrangements concerning the venue, concerning how it's going to be presented, marketed, who's it's going to, what are you wanting to do, how are you going to do it. And this time round, with Much Ado About Nothing that we did last year, it was hugely successful. It was really well received. That was our debut production. That was our coming onto the scene and proving ourselves. And I think we did that. And so for this one, we went, well, let's do something different. We want to do something a bit unique. We want to do something with a bit of a USP. And so we thought, well, why don't we do it outdoors? And a really easy, flippant thing to say. And then you go, that throws up 950 million other issues. How are you doing it? Where are you doing it? The other costs involved, the other, the logistics involved in doing that. And this time round, the Villa Gaiety have been amazing in supporting us, in supporting the arts. And now with what we've wanted to do, they were very receptive to it, and are working with us. And then we're wanting to, we're coming in and we're building a set. We're building, not from scratch. You're basically taking a section of the gardens and going, well, what can we do with this? It's how is it going to be staged? How are you going to sell the tickets? How are you, obviously through the Villa Gaiety, but how are you going to do everything else that normally you take for granted when you're in a set theatre space? And so it's a huge amount of work. So we've been working on this for months and months and months, putting it together.
This is the Isle of Man. It is not the Mediterranean,
No.
the sun-baked shores of southern France or northern Italy. It might rain. What do you do if it rains?
We have contingencies in place. So the Isle of Man is, if there's a bit of light drizzle and if there's a bit of a breeze, Manx audiences are pretty hardy. I mean, I've been to events before for outdoor shows, for theatre, where they've stayed through really quite torrential conditions, including myself. I've just sat there and gone, no, I'm going to watch the play. I'm not going anywhere. If it's really, really bad, the Villa Gaiety will either move your ticket or give you a full refund. If it was a hurricane for the 3 days, people would get their money back. That wouldn't be a problem. But we have contingencies in place for if it's a bit showery and there's a bit of weather, we're not going to stop the show. We're not going to shortchange people and say, we've done 10 minutes and that's it. We're taking all your money and running off. The show will go on as it were. But we're hoping for glorious sunshine. I got married on the 7th of September, Mark, over here, and it was the hottest and most beautiful day ever. So I'm kind of hoping for that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's historically that end of summer is often lovely here. So, as you say, you had a wedding on the day.
I did. So fingers crossed, but there are definitely contingencies in place, and we're very aware of how Manannan can change his mind at the last possible minute.
And that story, The Merchant of Venice, it's so, so relevant today. It's just as relevant as it was then.
Yes.
It's a remarkable, there's some poisonous characters in there. I mean, everyone loves a baddie.
There is, and I think with The Merchant of Venice, it's one of those plays, everybody knows, the anti-Semitic side of the story, and everybody knows the pound of flesh element. But if you actually look at it across the board, there's a romance story in there, there's some comedy in there, there's some other light moments as well. So there's a bit in there for everybody. But in terms of the way it's been abused historically by people to try and push an agenda or show a thing. But if you actually read it and you portray it well, as we will do, nobody really looks good in it. There's no real hero and there's no real villain. What you realise that everybody, and it's basically human nature, is everybody has a poisoned agenda of some description. As you say, they're poisonous characters, and you think, well, there's something a bit different there. But it was a bit of a step away from the much more light-hearted Much Ado we did last year, to this, which we thought, no, let's tackle something a bit more.
Well, it's a wonderful play. Can't wait to see it. Dates again, please.
Dates again, 7th to the 9th of September. Tickets on sale, Villa Gaiety online, or you can ring their line as well. And yep.
Well, Charlie, let's have our final piece of music for the week. What's it going to be?
Final piece of music for the week. So this is a track that, again, I kind of came across. I'd always known to the artist is Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. I'd always known of Tom Petty. In fact, Free Falling, I think, was one of the first. It's a classic early band learning song. So when I had the band back in school, was one of the songs we learned pretty early on. But this song is Learning to Fly from Out in the Big Wide Open, I think is the album, and it's a great song, and it's just one of those songs that induces in me, for reasons I can't really explain, a kind of a sense of nostalgia. You have a relationship with the song you can't quite explain to people. They go, was it a song that played at your somebody you know's funeral or something? No, I just have, it just means something to me. So this is why I chose this track, and I think it's just a great track.
Well, I can say very best of luck to you, because I'm assuming you're not acting in it.
No, I'm not in this one.
So break a leg to everybody else.
Yes, I might have bit parts, but I'm not the main player.
Well, here's to it. It's coming up in September. The Merchant of Venice. Charlie Williams, thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Well, I started out down a dirty road. Started out all alone, and the sun went down as I crossed the hill, and the town lit up. The world got still. I'm learning to fly, but I ain't got wings. Coming down is the hardest thing. Well, the good old days may not return, and the rocks might melt, and the sea may burn. I'm learning to fly, but I ain't got wings. Coming down is the hardest thing. Some say life will beat you down and break your heart, steal your crown. So I've started out for God knows where. I guess I'll know when I get there. I'm learning to fly around the clouds, but what goes up must come down. this thing. I'm learning to fly around the clouds. But what goes up must come down. I'm learning to fly. I'm learning to fly.
Lovely to hear Tom Petty learning to fly, the MyTunes choice of Charlie Williams, my guest all this week. I'm Mark Tiley. Be sure to join me when you can for the morning show, 9:30 to 12, Monday to Friday, and keep coming back here for more podcasts as they're coming up every day at manxradio.com.